Here's a demo that shows the shopping cart. Last page, once you pick some items, I'll kind of run through it here real quick. Go back to the shopping. I got something in there already. There's just a debug window down there at the bottom. I'll go into helping hands. Pick an item here. Go and get one of these guys. Redeem it. Go to the cart. And now that I'm in the cart, what we want to look at here is the shipping address. So it's basically the shipping address is set up so you can enter a new address or use one of your existing ones. If you go in and use one of your existing ones, it basically will pull it up and you can edit it from there. Some of the dynamic features is this drop down shows you multi-line addresses based on what's already in there for the employee. The state here, field for entering the state, is based on the country, and it's also based on our country codes, how we have it set up, so what we actually name that state. So if I remove that, over in our setup, it will actually have the fill in here for what the state's called. In this case, I just went in there and dummied it up. If we go to the US, it will automatically change this to a drop down to actually pick a state, and forces you to pick a state, and you can see how it got changed up there. It will store Georgia in the address, not GA Georgia. It will store United States of America without the what's in brackets. And so all that seems to be working good. The next thing is if we look at the actual code behind this. So if we go back here, it's the points order cart.jsp. You have a points order cart form, which is basically represents that form and allows us to have all these components actually interact with the page and make all that stuff happen. So if we look at get state select. Oh, it gets USA state. So this component here is a select component with searching in it. So that component's got some custom code in here that we put in here. I'm going to explain that here in a second. But we basically have the list of the states already loaded in the system. From that list, we're going to have this component output the code, since this is a component to interact with the page. That's the name of the code on the HTML part of the page. So on the page, this is all we had to drop in there, is basically just put a select in there, give it an ID, and it's a class for formatting. Didn't have to fill out anything. This here automatically is going to have a list of all the states, and we also want a search included in that because it's a larger list than just a few items. We want it to AJAX submit so that when you pick a different state, we want it to automatically in the background update all the other components once it's selected, so that'll happen for us. Null description is basically if they haven't picked a state yet, you know, please select a state type thing. If we look at the interaction right now, how this is set up is we get a copy of all the states, shared hub, and we're not going to programmatically, we're not going to link it to our shipping address. That could be another way to handle this, but another thing that we have going on is state sometimes can be freeform, and it's also, even though you pick one here, you pick a state here, is we actually manipulate this data. We only store Ohio, not the Ohio, but in our drop down we want to show all that. And if we pick up an existing address that's not an exact string match, we don't know exactly where it is. So we kind of do a best effort to do that. So since it's not a one-to-one and reusable kind of normalized data, we got some code that's going to manage that. So basically what we're doing here is we will get the existing state and we will figure out in the list of states which one that matches. And then we'll be able to kind of highlight this. So if we go in here and make this Ohio, so we selected Ohio, going to go off of Ukraine. Ukraine says, okay, we have states, whatever, but it's free form, so you can put whatever you want in it. So that's what we just did. Now if I go back to the United States, we want to go back to Ohio, just so we can match it back up. So again, not that big of a deal, but just some of the inner workings of how this is set up, and make sure that it's plugs in any gaps that we might run into. The next thing is when they do pick a state, we don't want the abbreviation of it, so here we're actually parsing that out, we're trimming it, and then we're actually setting the state on the address here. So up here where we're displaying the state and everything, we go in and change back to Ohio. You see how it's actually interacting with that and only storing state like we show here. So that being said, this new component's to oaselect. It's replaced in this case the OA button list. Its styling and behavior is pre-built for us in another component called Bootstrap Select, which its styling is based on Bootstrap, which kind of gives us a lot going with it. So we can also change how many rows is displayed, the format of the data, and everything else using templates. So I'm going to show you that here next. So if we go to our address select, we were just there, here it is. So our drop down for our addresses, if we look here, it's for our states, you can see it's, it's one-liners. For here, we want it to be multiple line because, the user needs to see that much information. And this goes back to using a template again, so we can form a template that's a div with a break in it. And then we got the address line 1 and then city state zip there, and then we will tell the address select component to use that as a template. So for each address that's in this list, in this case there's only 2, is it will basically use that template, fill out the information. That's what we're going to see here, and that's what gets displayed here when you select one of them. So that's it for this.